Hello and welcome to another IT tutorial video. In this video we're going to be looking at the adaptive release feature, which is easily one of the more powerful features that's available to you as an instructor in Blackboard. Adaptive release can be used to control content based on other criteria. So for instance, if I had an assignment or an item on Blackboard that I wanted students to see after they achieved a certain grade or after a certain amount of time had gone by, or even if they're a member of a particular group, adaptive release can help me do that. But it's also a tool that's pretty easy to misunderstand and therefore cause you some sort of headache results. So for that reason, we want to take a really close look at how to do adaptive release and how it can be used to benefit you the most. So the first rule about adaptive release is that you want to think about how your criteria is going to be managed. And we'll get into that in a quick second, but to start out, it's important to know that you can apply adaptive release to any object that's in a folder. Okay, so course content is a content folder in Blackboard. It's just like a folder on your Windows desktop. These areas along the side may or may not be folders, but they're not always folders, so you can't apply adaptive release rules to them. You can only apply adaptive release rules to what's sort of in this big content area here, or more simply put, whenever you see this exact toolbar, you can apply an adaptive release rule. If you don't see that here, like we don't see that particular bar across the top of this menu, you can't use adaptive release with it. So I can apply adaptive release again to anything in this area here. For this demonstration, what I'm going to be doing is applying adaptive release rules to this final assignment. And to do that, I want to click on this little down arrow right by the name, and I want to click on the button that says adaptive release. So I'm going to click on it, and after a second, there comes up my adaptive release page. And this is the simplified version of adaptive release. There is an advanced version, and we'll get into that a little bit more in another video, but this is the easiest way to use adaptive release because it really streamlines the process a lot for you. So right off the bat, we have a number of different criteria. We have a date criteria where I can apply adaptive release rules to a date. I have a membership criteria where I can only show this to certain groups or certain users. And I have a grade area here, which is useful if I want to show the item after the student has got a certain grade. And then finally we have a review status item, which means the student has to tick a little box in Blackboard saying that they have read something before they'll be able to see the item. And you can get really, really powerful with these, but we're just going to look at them really, really quickly in this video. So the first one is date, and it works exactly like display after and display until appears on an assignment or a test or an assessment. And that's really an odd point about this particular type of adaptive release, in that people tend to try and do both. And in that case, it's really easy to mess up an adaptive release rule because if you're using the date here and you're also setting that same criteria in the assignment, the system will get confused and doesn't know which one to enforce or which one not to, so oftentimes it just doesn't show the icon at all. So what you want to do is you want to sort of pick one or the other. If you're going to be setting dates and times in your adaptive release, then you want to make sure that display after and display until is actually off in your item. And if I go back to a test or an assignment really quickly, what you'll see here is that the boxes look exactly the same. If I go in to edit this assignment, this final assignment, I have exactly the same options right here under display after and display until. If I set it here, I don't want to set it in the adaptive release. If I don't set it here but still want to control it, I would do so in the adaptive release. So basically just pick one or the other, not both. In adaptive release, yet again, the next option that we have is membership. And I can click browse, And what it's going to do is it's going to give me a list of all the users in my course. So I have demo student and myself, just because this is a sample course. And if I pick demo student here, it's going to put their username in this little box. If I were to click submit, what would happen is that none of the other students in the class would be able to see this final assignment Dropbox except for the demo student. And that can be really useful if you have a test that maybe a student missed, but you still want them to write the test, right? Why go through the hassle of creating an entirely new test on Blackboard and having then a separate column in your grade center when you can just go through and do an adaptive release. That way it'll only show to the demo student. If I go back into adaptive release, I can clear that by clicking the delete button down there, and we can move on to the next criteria, which is grade. So I can set adaptive release based on any grade criteria that's currently in the gradebook. So let's say that the students, for instance, had to score at least 50% on essay number 1. To do this, I would select essay number 1 from my drop-down list, and I would click the percent button. You'll also note, though, that I can click on score to do a raw score, but I want percent for this. And the percentage is greater than or equal to 50%. So again, what this will do is if the student has a score greater than 50% on essay number 1, it'll show them the icon. If they scored below 50% or didn't hand in essay 1 at all, the icon will not appear for the student. So that's a very useful feature, and it's very useful if your class is utilizing the academic integrity module, because oftentimes what we recommend for that is that the student not complete the first assignment until they've gone through the academic integrity module. With adaptive release, you can put that in right in here, so the student will never even see the Dropbox until they've scored over the certain number of points on the academic integrity. And the best part about this is that it all updates live too. So as soon as you put the right grade in your grade center in Blackboard, that icon is going to appear to the students. And if you want to undo any of these, you just turn them back to none and click submit, and everything will be fine. So that's a really quick look at adaptive release in Blackboard. It's a very useful feature that can be used to control content very simply. In our next video, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at adaptive release rules that can be nested, so you can have multiple levels of them. Thank you for watching.